Today, I'm going to talk about something a little bit different, obviously, which you will know from the title. I don't want to say I put off making this video because I really didn't. I never really thought about making this video, and until very, very recently, I didn't really identify this in myself. But a week or so ago, I tweeted something along the lines of, I finally realised that all the feelings that I've been feeling recently, and looking back kind of over a long period of time, could probably be diagnosed as anxiety, and that I just never really kind of identified those things in myself. And I think the main reason for that, especially recently, is that everyone's talking about anxiety, and although that's a great thing, it's kind of a double-edged sword in that we've got one, is that the right phrase in this circumstance? We've got fantastic, more people are hearing about this, more people are being open, more people are sharing, we're all feeling a bit more comfortable with our own kind of mental health issues. But on the other hand, the more people talk about something, the more it feels like a fad and something to be taken less seriously. And I think the same has happened with, let's say, veganism, which is a huge lifestyle decision for a lot of people for great reasons. And then a lot of people have kind of jumped on that for their own great reasons because there's been so much talk about it and so much promotion within the community. However, I do think also some people are kind of in it for the attention. I think that for me, for a really long time, that's how I saw anxiety. I didn't see how it was possible that so many people that I was seeing in my feed, and especially just online, were suddenly suffering with anxiety. I felt like it was something that a couple of popular YouTubers had talked about, and now everyone had anxiety. It was like a clickbaity buzzword title. And so it just was completely out of my mind. I did think for a while that I could have mild depression. I know that that's been in my family. It's something that I've always had in the back of my mind as something I could struggle with, because it's something that a lot of people in my family did have some kind of medication for off and on for most of their lives. And it's something that I tried to avoid when I'd had my first child, because I ended up going for counselling. Fun fact, I live in Doncaster, which is the north of England, and once upon a time when Ella was very, very small, I went to the doctor because I was feeling really, really low. And I remember wanting to go. I don't remember the feelings, I just remember feeling that I needed to go. And I was only 19, 20. It's kind of a big deal to it, given that it wasn't what it is now. It will have been a big deal for me to feel enough like that to want to go and talk to someone. And so I went, and at the time they were doing an initiative in 2 places where they didn't give you any kind of medication. Instead, they gave you counselling. So I had 1 counselling session and then phone sessions for like probably 12 weeks or so afterwards. And the initiative was run in London and Doncaster because apparently they are the 2 places that had highest teen pregnancy rates at the time, and also like drug use and stuff like that, things that might make people feel really low and depressed, basically. They kind of decided that they were the 2 areas. I was really, really grateful for that after the fact, because I was really concerned that I could get into a cycle with medication, like I've seen happen with other people, and it was something that I just didn't want, especially from such a young age. So at the time I was really, really grateful for it. I don't know whether or not the counselling sessions really did anything. My only memories of them are on a weekly basis. I had to call in with this woman and she would ask me how it'd been that week, and I probably didn't really want to talk very much about it, but I do remember her asking me, on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, how much do you feel like these things this week? And one of them was like, how suicidal do you feel this week? And although I understand the question, I never felt like that, and everything around it felt very irrelevant to my issue. I think if I'd had just someone impartial to talk to, that would have been maybe a little bit more beneficial to me. I understand why they had to do that. I understand, you know, they have to cover these bases, but the whole thing didn't feel particularly relevant to my problem. So although it was great, and although obviously it felt like it went away, I can't really tell you what my experience of that was because I can't remember. It was such a long time ago. But you know, fun fact that's why I didn't go on antidepressants when I was like my early 20s, because I lived in Doncaster. There are benefits. So recently I've been feeling kind of low, and I spoke about it earlier this year. I did make a video about, you know, like an update very, very early this year. And I was talking about, at the time, chronic pain, and how, again, it was something that I was really avoiding using the term chronic pain because I felt like it was another buzzword that people were using. But it came to my attention that the pain that I had been feeling in my back and my shoulder was in fact chronic pain that does not go away over a short period of time. And this has been years. So it was chronic pain, and it got to the stage where it just makes you feel really, really sad all the time. You kind of like feel like you're on the brink of tears because although it's dealable with and it wasn't, oh my God, you know, agony, it was constant. And so it starts to make you feel really low. And so a lot of my upset and kind of what I would call anxiety now, I put down to the fact that I'd had this chronic shoulder pain. I had various painkillers for it. I had like physio. I've been to a masseuse recently who is fantastic. If you have chronic back pain, I would highly recommend a hot stone massage from someone who can give a really, really firm massage, not like a sports massage. Go somewhere nice. Find someone, you know, that can be really, really heavy-handed. I was crippled for a couple of days afterwards, but then it was amazing. And it's better than any physio I've ever had. And a much nicer experience too. So anyway, I went through all of that and I kind of thought that that was what it was. And over the time, you know, it's been and gone. And I started to think maybe that's not what it was when I had what I think was a panic attack at work. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt really, really tight. I just couldn't take a deep breath in. My heart was beating so fast. I had to go into the toilet just to kind of like be by myself for a minute and calm down. I don't know why. It was just something that I couldn't cope with in that moment. And I thought, maybe this is actually anxiety. Maybe when people talk about anxiety, this is what this is. So I was talking to someone at work about this, not this specifically, but kind of like vaguely this. Just because you kind of want to talk about these things, but you don't want to talk about these things. Anyway, it came out of the conversation that she had suffered with something similar. And she basically said that she finds it really difficult to cope with stressful situations that other people would be able to deal with, you know, like day-to-day stresses. Let's say taking the kids to school, that's pretty stressful. She finds it really difficult and she takes medication so that she can kind of just like deal with those things. And this is someone that I talk to all the time, someone I would never have known had these problems. And it just kind of reminded me of that old adage of we don't know what other people are dealing with, like underneath the surface. So everyone's got something that they're dealing with that you don't know about, and it can take the face of anyone. In my mind, someone with anxiety is like a young girl. Obviously that's not everyone, but in my mind that was the face of anxiety, when in actual fact it could be absolutely anyone. It has less effect when someone says they have anxiety now because it feels like everyone has it. However, the more I've thought about it, the more I've thought, okay, maybe there's a reason that everyone online has anxiety, because I think genuinely these days, I mean, obviously throughout history there have been more stressful times. I'm not taking away from that, but like right now, I think people maybe are just generally more anxious and stressed than they were 10, 15 years ago because of social media. There's so much more pressure on people, you know, from seeing other people live certain lives that you wish that you had that lifestyle, you wish that you had money for this, money for that, I wish that I had that family, I wish that I had whatever, to if someone doesn't respond to you, if someone doesn't like something, we are putting so much value on numbers. And that's just everyone. That's not people on YouTube and bloggers and all that. That's just everyone is feeling that way. I have a 12-year-old daughter who I know she's already in that cycle of it's important to have so many people like your picture. It's important to look nice. Filters are big for preteens. And if that's how they're feeling, if that's how people are feeling that are not online, it is no wonder that people who genuinely, it is their job to care about numbers. It is their job to care about how many people like them, how many people follow them, how many people subscribe to them. It's no wonder that these are the people who are full on melting down in this current climate of anxiety. So I was like not taking it that seriously and really thinking it was like, oh, it's this trendy fad of anxiety because so many YouTubers were coming out with, oh, I'm so anxious. And then when I started to feel that way myself, and I felt like I couldn't talk about it for that reason, and when I really thought about it, I thought, yeah, this is why. This is a legit thing. Like, people online are at the forefront of that being so attached to numbers. Like, numbers are you. Do you know what I mean? Like, we are so invested in the numbers game of likes, subscribers, followers, that when you suddenly suffer a low engagement or lots of followers that you lose or less likes, which it seems like everyone is, suddenly everyone's like in a tailspin. So I do get that now, and I totally understand, and I'd like to believe everyone that is saying it, but I can totally understand for those of you that might be watching this and thinking, yeah, another person with anxiety, I'm with you. It's the same as anything. You know, someone tells you something doesn't work, or, you know, they can't do something, and you think, I mean, even as stupid as someone at work the other day was saying something was really difficult, and I thought, you're totally exaggerating, it's not that difficult. I tried it and it was that difficult. You know what I mean? Until you're in someone's shoes, you can't really judge the situation that they've been in because you have no idea. And that is how I'm feeling now. And I'm feeling quite horribly judgmental about the way I was in the past. So I decided to record a podcast last week, just talking a little bit about how I was feeling. And the response that I got was absolutely massive after the fact. And it was all people around my age, people in a similar situation, similar circumstances to me. I don't feel personally like I can relate to a 20-year-old full-time blogger when I'm a 31-year-old mum of two. I don't feel like our situations are the same. And so, yes, okay, I completely accept that your anxiety is entirely valid, but it doesn't feel like mine, if you know what I mean. I mean, just did a little Instagram story while I was getting ready, or a live Instagram, and people were talking about how they feel and how their anxiety manifests itself. And it is so different for so many different people. It's like, for some people, they can't leave the house. That's not how I feel at all. I just know that it's making me feel terrible. I don't know what my triggers are. People talk a lot about triggers. I've done some research recently and people talk a lot about triggers. I don't know what my triggers are, but I do know that for a really, really long time, I have not dealt with very, very small things, and it's kind of built up and built up and built up, so that when I get something that is big that I need to deal with, I am completely incapable. So for me, that's not how it is. Someone might talk to me and I'll tell them what my life is like, and they might say, well, you haven't got anxiety because you're able to be by yourself, you're able to, you know, leave the house, you're able to do all these different things, social situations are fine. But that's not how it is for me. How it is for me is more coping, just general coping. And I think a massive thing of that is this super be happy culture, this always be positive, positives vibes only. I totally subscribe to this. I totally was like, yes, I only want positivity. I never want negativity. I don't want people that are going to tell me things that are terrible. I don't want people that are going to give me only problems. I want solutions, that kind of thing. You know, that whole, you know, the trend, the fad for positivity. And so that was making me feel really sad. And I identified that earlier this year, that was not healthy for me. To feel like I was supposed to be positive all the time, it's just not possible. And to feel like being negative is toxic and you have to get rid of those people out of your life, that was not doing me any good at all. However, I've always had kind of like a low-key version of that running through my mind when it comes to any kind of stress or problems. In fact, a friend recently said to me that she adopted this and it was working really well for her, but I think I've taken it too far. So the general idea is, if you've got a problem, and I'm talking like traffic, let's say, for example. So if you're in traffic, you're going to be half an hour late for work. There is no point in sitting in the car like, oh my God, what am I going to do? There's nothing you can do. In that situation, accept it. Accept that it's going to happen and just let it happen. In the situation where you are in that kind of circumstance, you cannot change the outcome. Just accept it. However, I've kind of done that for a lot of different things. And there've been big things and there've been tiny things that could have been dealt with, and I have adopted the attitude of, well, I can't fix it, so I'm not going to worry about it. But of course, in the back of my mind, there is the worry, there is the stress, and it never really goes away, and it builds and it builds and it builds, so that when there is something really big that you have to deal with, you haven't dealt with all the other things, and you are always at that kind of tipping point of tears. And so for me, I mean, like I say, I can cry about absolutely everything all the time. I don't know if you guys saw, Kristen Bell was on Ellen. This is ages and ages ago now. But she talks about being on the emotional scale of like always being able to cry. She said something like, if she's not between a 3 and a 7, then she's crying. So she's either really happy or really sad, she's crying. But it is kind of like there's a sweet spot in the middle where she's happy. I would say my scale is a smaller scale. If I'm not like between a 5 and a 6. So if I'm like a little bit sad, or if there's a sad song on the radio, or I'm watching Nashville, Jesus Christ, this season of Nashville has killed me. So those things make me really sad. Or I was watching Willy Wonka the other day with Milo for the first time, and when Charlie gets the golden ticket, legit tears. Just the happiness in their voices made me cry. I can cry at anything. And so for a long time, I have pushed that aside as like, you're just over emotional. But I think it is because I don't deal with things that could be dealt with. And so any opportunity to cry at least says I'm obsessed with being depressed. Or much as that sounds like it's really not supportive, that's not what he meant at all. What he means is I almost seek out sad things so that I can cry. So like this season of Nashville, like sad songs, like a sad movie, I will sit there and like happily cry about it. It's not making me sad. It's not like oh my God, you know, my life is going to end, although that's what it feels like sometimes. It is just kind of like a crying for crying's sake. And I have always been like this. I like something that's sad. I like to cry at movies. And I think it was a way, it was like an outlet. It was a cathartic thing for me because I'm not crying about the real stuff. And so I'm seeking out pretend stuff to cry about so that I can let it out, but not actually deal with things. Someone actually contacted me today, which is what pushed me to finally film this video. And she said that the thing that pushed her to finally acknowledge that she was suffering with this was that she was hospitalized over the summer. And when I hear about things like that, I think I have been suffering with this same back and shoulder pain off and on since I had Ella. Like around the time, probably 6 months to a year old, I had this really, really terrible pain. It seemed to be fixed with physio. It came back after I had Milo and has been off and on terrible. Like sometimes it's debilitating. I could just like only want to lie down because it hurts so much. Right now I feel fine. Tomorrow I could feel terrible. The fact that it can be so off and on like that, and when it's decided to rear its ugly head, makes me wonder now if that is all psychosomatic. Either psychosomatic and it's completely just like in my mind and anxiety fueled, if this is just how my stress has manifested itself in a physical way, or if it's just because I'm so tense and that has, you know, when I've been really tense, when I've been really anxious, maybe I'm holding myself differently, maybe it's all related, which is crazy to think. But I, this time around, have been to physios that could not fix it. They have said that they can feel certain problems, but it didn't matter how many sessions I had, they couldn't fix it. And obviously, the worse the pain is, the more stressed out you get. And maybe it is just like a vicious cycle, but that just goes to show that sometimes it takes for you to become really ill before you realise, okay, this is a physical problem that I've been really focusing on, but in actual fact, this is not the problem. It's something completely different that I just didn't feel comfortable facing. I do know that when I am stressed, and I know that I'm stressed because of like whatever situation is happening at the time, I do get kind of like a tingling and a numbness in my shoulders. So what's to say the whole thing? I don't know. That would kind of be like the most bizarre twist of it all, if in acknowledging that this is a thing fixes that, maybe it will be like a blessing in disguise. Ultimately, I don't know what it is that's causing my anxiety. I don't know what my triggers are specifically. I don't know what will fix it. And I'm kind of really, really early stage of this whole process. However, I wanted to make this video because when I got all of those responses after the podcast and talking on Twitter about it, I just realised that there are a lot of people that are my age that feel really stupid talking about it and don't feel like they want to say because people won't take them seriously. I am a parent. I've got 2 children who are amazing. I've got a lovely husband, so much support. There is no good reason for me to feel anxious. If you look at my life, there's no real reason, and yet there doesn't need to be a real reason. That's the thing that I've realised. It's not about what's happening with someone, it's about what's happening in someone. And so, although I didn't take it seriously, and I completely understand if you don't, I completely understand because that was me. I didn't get it. But I wanted to talk about it for that reason, and I would love for those of you that are feeling those same issues to talk in the comments. You can contact me directly. My email is somewhere around here. It may be in the info box. If it's not, I'll put it in there for this video. But I kind of just wanted to kind of start a discussion about it for people that are older and don't feel like it's an illness for them. People that, like me, felt like the face of anxiety was like a 21-year-old girl and not someone like us. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what will happen. I don't know how I will feel tomorrow. This is not debilitating for me. I have not reached a phase where I'm like, cannot get out of bed. But I've been there, I've had those days, and I just want to put it out there that this is not a young person's game. This can affect anyone, no matter how happy your life is, no matter where you are. You could be on a beautiful island, in theory, happiest moment of your life, and you could be absolutely miserable and you might not know why. And that sucks, but it happens, and you are completely not alone in that. Because it can feel very, very lonely when it's difficult to explain to someone how that feels. Because they want to fix it and they want to make you feel better, but you really can't. No one can make you feel better when you feel like that. When there's no specific reason for the way that you feel, how do you know what the resolution is? There really isn't a resolution. So yeah, if you feel like you haven't got anyone to talk to, please, you can email me and we will talk, because I get that. Although my husband's very supportive, he doesn't get it. He won't understand how it can be so upsetting, literally about nothing. Although the whole YouTube thing and the numbers and the like, putting the value of yourself against something that is completely out of your control online is massive. So I'm coming around to the idea that it's not a clickbait thing, and maybe bloggers are just more susceptible to it. But, you know, it can happen to anyone, and if it's happening to you, I'm very sorry, but hopefully we can talk and you'll feel a little bit less isolated in it. If this was not for you, apologies. There'll be a regular video very, very soon. I'll be back to my decluttering. But I wanted to film this for whatever reason, and I will see you guys next time.